Hi, my name's Leslie Stark. I work at Canvas and at Instructure. I formerly taught, so I see a couple fun faces over there that I recognize at in Park City School District. So I've been using Canvas for a long time, just like you guys. And I get to have the fun of playing with all these things and then sharing with everybody what they are. So I'm going to start out with kind of a story here about Mastery Paths. So we want to start with the problem. So the problem, you're working with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of educators, and your teachers are working with potentially hundreds of students. So I know elementary class sizes 25 to 36, hopefully not that many, but some are. But your secondary teachers, hundreds of students potentially. And how can they personalize that learning for those hundreds of students? They, students at different levels, students coming in with different backgrounds, different knowledge that they're starting with. So the problem is, how do you get content and help students to either accelerate or to remediate or to just kind of stay on that, mainstream level? So that's kind of the problem that we're seeing. So we know that there's academic diversity. So in our academic diversity, we have students who are coming in, English language learners, students on IEPs, students that have, again, they're not all in the same spot. Even though they're in the same grade level, they may be 2 reading levels behind. They might be a reading level or 2 ahead. So we really want to, work on helping them all get to that same place. Standards are put out there that we all need to be, students must master these certain components and these certain competencies. And again, they're all in different locations. So we need to look at effective instruction. So here's the data that supports it. So most of us have heard of like RTI strategies, response to intervention. Feedback, so it's very effective. So if you can immediately intervene with a student and give them that immediate feedback and help them out, you're going to be able to hopefully mend, accelerate, fix that issue, bridge that learning gap faster. Formative evaluations, and then mastery learning. I always left the data. And then there's a lot of research around it, so it's a little more in that secondary and higher ed for sure. You see lectures are very common. I hate doing demonstrations because I feel like I'm lecturing, which is bad pedagogical practice. Then there's mastery learning, and then there's individual tutoring and mastery learning, which is the most effective form of instruction. So again, Mastery Paths is trying to solve this problem. And we've all seen this. Last year, I think there were lots and lots of tweets out about the equality is not equity. And this is where you can see, we've got all those students, those standards, that high stakes testing, those competencies, the standards-based grading that people are moving towards. So if you have that where it's one student with their high standards, another with just great teaching, and then another with that individualized support, and it brings everybody into that same playing field. I love this graphic, by the way. So with that, again, our solution, Mastery Paths. So now we like to do live demos, and we always cross our fingers because we know in live demos and trainings, things don't always go as expected. Any questions so far before I jump in? Yes, ma'am?
I just have one, and this was from a teacher yesterday.
Absolutely.
She had put a link to a page on a page, and she had linked it several times and could not get it to open for her kids. So I went in and looked at it and noticed that, and I had never noticed this before, but at the bottom it said something Mastery Paths or something, and it had a check next. So I took a check off, saved it, and then her students liked.
So I'm going to go through it. So we have different objects in Canvas. So there's going to be, I like my 3 assessment objects. I kind of categorize things. Assessments, discussions that are graded, quizzes that are graded, and assignments that are graded. So those are your assessments bundled together. Those can all be pathed. And the pathing, it's flag, it needs to be turned on. So it's either turned on at the course level, so if you're allowing teachers to use this, or it can be done at a whole district level and it can just be turned on for everybody. So we're all familiar with feature flags. Okay, if not, speak up and I can quickly demo feature flags. Okay, so mine's turned on in my course for that. So we have those 3 assessments that can be pathed, and then we also have content pages, which is that consumable information. Those can be flagged. So case in point, I give my students a quick assessment for understanding what they know. So I'm doing a quick pre-formative assessment. So do they know all of the first 5 presidents of the United States? If they don't, I might send them to a content page that has a video that's going to play a cute little jingle that says, here are, the presidents, so they can study it, then they could go in and take another quiz and move along in the path. So it's a way for the content pages to give some of that consumable information that will help them get to that next level. So it's going to be a scaffolding tool. So when you select it, only students who scored whatever they needed to score can see that pathed item. So you want to be very cautious on checking that path if they don't actually want that to be part of a path.
Yeah, because she's not even using MasteryPath.
Yeah, so yeah, we want to retrain to not click that if she's not using it yet.
Is that a new option?
It's new as of last November when MasteryPaths came out, and the content pages could be added. Yep, so it's maybe just people haven't had the flag on, so you just haven't seen it. All right, so MasteryPaths live within modules. So with that great backwards design, I'm going to look at my different information. So in my module here with my new elementary demo, because I'm very creative on my class names, I'll zoom in here. So I have my pre-test main idea. It's 4 points, students need to submit to it. So I've already built out all of my content, and now I want to path things. So when I come into this pre-test main idea, quiz, notice we've got the new little quiz icon here, and I click edit, I have the option, so a third tab now exists because I've turned on MasteryPath. And this is where I can now decide where students need to go. So I can click here and I can change these point values. So we have folks that will make this, between 4 and 2, and then 2 and 1, and 1 and 0. So it's all in the accelerated students are going to go onto this track. My, kind of average, moderate will stay on this one, and then remedial for that scaffolding, because I can't get to them immediately after they've taken this quick quiz. What do I want to give them that will help them continue to move along? So now I'm going to go ahead and add, I can sort by my different items. So if I want to just look at just my assignments that I could pick, I can sort by my quizzes. So if I want them to take another quiz, discussions, so again, these different objects, and then, oops, not other, pages. So I don't have any pages selected right now, but as I go through, I'll build some. So for this one, we're going to just set an assignment, and we'll just pick this first group project. And so my accelerated here, they're going to get this group project, and then they're also going to get this Google Journal. So when you bring in the path, you have the option. So both of these assignments, I can see one's 0 points, one's 12. I probably want to structure a little bit better on my point scheme. I can do an and, or I can do an or. So if I want to give students the option of what they would like to do, then I can now give options based upon their score. So you can either say you have to do both of these things, or you can choose which one that you want. So as they go through the path and they see the items that pop up, they'll get the little brief description of what the two options are, and then they'll select. Now this is where telling your teachers there's no do-overs. When they choose one, that's the one they do. There's no releasing it and saying, okay, you can pick another one. So they are pathed to that item. And I'll come in and I'm just going to pick a couple other items. Pretest. This one. And the last one. Okay. So now they all have the options. The first one's the only or, the others, it's all ands. And again, as you put in content pages, you can add in those, again, scaffolded resources to help out students. You can change the order of these if needed, just by dragging. Drag and drop does work. I think it's this one that does it. Like I said, live demos, we love them. If I need to change something, remove it, edit, I can click on the 3 dots. So when I'm happy with this, I'll go ahead and save. And now I get this nice little MasteryPaths breakdown. So I have 4 students in this course. So once my students start taking this assessment, it's going to show me which group they're in. And then I'm able to click on that. It will pop out and give me a quick synopsis of each of those students. So again, so teachers can quickly check in. A great tool for that beginning of, bell ringer, formative, quick assessment, get them moving for the day and kind of seeing what they know or for the week. So we will come back into the module, and now we're going to see that this has a mastery path. Now in best practice and best design, I'm going to be putting everything below. Actually, I want to double check one more item. This is something that hangs folks up occasionally. So this one will be assigned to everyone, those other assessments that I selected are now going to be assigned to the mastery path, not to everyone. So what that means is my first item here, so this is telling me, that's another example. So this assignment right here, I need to make sure that it is now not assigned to everyone, but it's assigned to its mastery path. So right there, I now have this new option because it's pathed. So a lot of times when teachers start using this, they don't realize that they have to change that everyone to the path, because they'll say, oh my gosh, students see everything. Why are they seeing everything? I want them to only see what they're supposed to receive. So this differentiates, by default, the assignments. So also in that conversation, when you're talking with those teachers, when differentiated assignments happen, pass back breaks. So if they're in the districts that have pass back, that will break. Yep, yep. So differentiated assignments, pass back doesn't go because the grade book does not understand, like, why did you only give 3 people this assignment? So when you do that, it does, the powerful tool on this side, sometimes they don't like to play nice on the other side. So it's just something to know. You'll come across it, people will ask, they'll say, why is this happening? So for your knowledge, that is something to know. Yep. Doesn't mean that MasteryPaths is bad. It's just that and or of the different items. So it's kind of that, what are you needing? Is this something that needs to go to the grade book kind of thing? Yes, sir?
So, Leslie, like any great cooking show, you have had ingredients prepped ahead of time.
Correct.
Are you going to go over the preparations? Because you just made this wonderful souffle.
I did.
But you had diced up things. I know, because I know that there's missing kind of reasons. Yes. Are you going to go over that?
Yes.
Okay.
I like that. That is a fantastic, that's awesome, yes. Okay, so I will quickly drum up a new course. Let me set this down while I need to type. I didn't mean to do that. That was exciting. It helps if I pay attention to things, like this wonderful stand that exists, Microphones and I are not friends. I just like to use my big teacher voice. Okay. Even when I had the classroom microphone, I would never wear it. I hated it. Okay. All right, so from scratch, there we go, we can do this. I can really do this, I think so. Maybe. Told you microphones hate me. Okay. So I'm gonna just start with, so obviously brand new, I personally love this, the either import option or starting with a module. So I'm going to do module centric and quickly build. So I'm gonna rapid fire build here. And you can never type in front of folks. So I'm going to add the module, and now first thing I want to do is just add this quiz. And I'm not going to worry about where it's filing right now. And then after that, what do you know? If students don't know anything, I'm going to do 5 things review. So a new page. I will do a new assignment. And I would never actually call it this, but I'm just going to call it modified for this time. Okay, So in that, my ingredients. So I've got my first assessment, because I want to find out what they know. And then I know underneath that, if they don't know anything, I've got a content page, and then I've got assignments. So, and again, I would never use this naming convention, because that's not good practice for those kiddos. So in this first quiz, what do you know? Edit. Come on. Gonna just quickly find some questions. Maybe one. Sure. Well, helps if I click the button. Okay. And I'll pad this. So the students who know this, they are going to get that 5 themes activity. And my next 2 groups, because there's really not a big differentiator there, actually, let me pause on that one really fast. Because in my pages, this is where that box comes up. And I need to check this box, allow in mastery paths, save and publish. So that box now says this content page, which would have great videos and information in it, will exist. Back to my quiz. Edit. Grab that question. Oh, it stayed good. And now, okay, so you can see that page is here. First assignment for those first kids. And then the next one, I want both of these. And same for this one. So you can make it the same for both of them. So now they've got this page and that assignment that they're going to do. And I'd have all my great directions in that. So this is where it's a concept mapping for your teachers as they're laying out the work. For first year users of Canvas, I wouldn't recommend dropping right into mastery paths. You need to have a lot of content beforehand, and then you can start looking at how you path it. You also want to warn them or talk to them about, don't like inception this, where it's like, well, once they finish this assignment, now it's going to path to this, because they will get very lost on exactly what they did. So it's concept mapping is the best way to describe how you line up that path, and to start small. And again, not to kind of trigger it to go throughout, like, let me path everything into these different branches, because then you'll have students all over the place. And yes, you're going for that adaptive learning, but let's take it back a step and only do personalized learning. So we love adaptive, but personalized is a little bit better in this case. So when I'm happy with this, I'll save and publish the quiz. And back to my module, because it all lives in that beautiful module that is not published, so it's grayed out. I can now see mastery path, and then that multiple means that 2 paths are going to it, and the 1.1 point is the only one on that other path. And you can always click in once you've pathed things to see what it's all attached to. So when I click back here, it will take me right into the quiz, and it will show these different items. Yes, sir?
It kind of relates to the grade pass back comment.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than on your assignment topic, when you assign it to either the entire class or individually, could you use this path method that you're talking about to still assign it to every class?
Mm-hmm.
And you could create, for example, in a module, a pretest,
Mm-hmm.
a level 1 assignment, a level 2 assignment, a level 3 assignment, a level 4. And in your grade book, Aspire, SIS, whatever, you have each of those assignments ready. If the kid gets a level 3 score on the pretest, then all you have to do is go to set the default grade in the grade book, give the kid the full credit for the level 1 and 2 assignments, even though they didn't do it.
Yep. Yeah, you could.
You don't have to worry about it in the grade pass back. It can still be a functional.
So where it will break is on the Canvas side, because it's not able to find the ID of it.
No, you're still assigning every
Oh,
assignment
okay.
to every kid.
Okay, so you're still leaving the everyone open, so
Yes.
they'll see it all. Okay.
But just in your pathway, you're just creating it.
Yes. Yeah, they'll still see them all, but you need to be very, very descriptive to your students that you're going to see everything, but you're not required to do everything. So that's, you know, again, it's that kind of how much communication. Yep. Exactly. So there's always workarounds, and it's just all in that where do you want to communicate which part of the story. So, yes.
Okay, I have another
Of course.
question. Sorry.
No, no, no.
Okay, so let's say that a student gets a 2 out of 4.
Uh-huh.
So that puts them into one of the mastery tests. Does that mean that the kids that got, say, the 4
Mhm.
aren't going to see?
Correct.
Okay.
They only see what they're assigned to see. So that's part of that differentiation that we added about 2 years ago into assignments and discussions and quizzes. It's that you only see what you're assigned to see. So their calendar will only populate with those different items. Their syllabus, if they're using syllabus, will only show that. Their grade book will only show that. The parent app will only show that. The student app will only show that. So it's all kind of in that part of it. So, yep. So you can see there's a lot of talking points in there of like when it starts to path, which is the give take of that element. Other questions there on this kind of build of it? These are all great questions. Did I dice it up a little bit more in the chef status for you? Perfect. I liked that analogy. I'm going to steal it. So thank you. I can't say that. I'm going to borrow it. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so once this is all set up, I'm going to go back to that other class that has some students in it. And we save. And it's going to give me that warning. Not everybody's getting this assignment. And that's okay. We'll continue. And let me grab just a couple of those other items. Perfect. Okay. So let's go ahead. I'm going to masquerade as a student really quickly. Do we all love course cards now? The little context cards? Yeah. I absolutely love them. It's the greatest thing ever to just see how the activity is going. So hopefully your schools have them turned on because that's the best. Okay, so my student comes in, modules, and they'll see right here that they've got this, there's new content, but it's locked until that first assessment is graded. So they won't know exactly what they're going on to next because they can't see that element of it. It's been assigned in a certain order, but they will see that locked. And then once they take the assessment, it will release those different items. So, and this is not the most perfect course in that sense, but let's see if we can do this pre-test main idea quiz. So my questions. Ugh, we're going to fail this test. That's going to be great. I like failing tests in front of everyone. All right. And we submit. So with having this part, so we can see, wow, I really failed that. That's good. They get their score, they get their feedback, which we love that feedback, and then they'll move next to the next item that they need to work on. So they'll be able to move into that path. So when we go back into the module here, still locked because there is a graded component on that quiz, but they're able to move to that next kind of video to get the support and everything that they need. So if I had made that page one of the Mastery Path pages, then that would show up. So it kind of works them right on through. Let's just mark this as done. And go next. Still embedding those PowerPoints. And here we go. That's where we can say this assignment doesn't go. Text entry. And they get to progress right on through their assignments. So again, as we start pathing, the student will see what's locked until that individual project is graded. So now when I go in as the teacher, it will release the path. So it's another way to kind of hold them in place, kind of like with modules and the requirements that you've maybe done in the past, where it's the must submit, must score at least, those different items. The same thing, you can hold students in place before they get pathed out. So quizzes is going to be the first area that will initially, because so much of the quiz is manual or is graded by Canvas. So that's why it's a great start when you're introducing it to say, hey, use it as like a bell ringer, a quick formative assessment, a weekly what do you know, and then path from there. But the big idea is if you've got a full classroom of 200 students that that you're working with, not necessarily in one sitting, but just over the block scheduling or over the whole day that you see, how can you best get feedback and resources and things to them as quickly as possible and keep them engaged? Not that they need to be behind their computers all day long either, but keep them engaged in that way. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. No, the others are thinking it. Don't ever say sorry.
Well, I get so many emails and phone calls every day.
Yep.
But I have to know what I'm talking about sometimes. So, they take the test.
Yep.
Canvas, because you put it on MasterCard, Canvas identifies the kids and where they should be, so you don't have to set any of that up.
Correct.
And then they are put into those different paths.
Yep.
Without you having to worry about that.
Exactly. So that's what the beauty of it is. So right here, you're going to see that in that 0 to 2 points, I have 1 student out of 4 who's failed that. And Emma right here, she did not do so well. Again, it's my favorite thing to fail tests in front of everyone. So I can click on her name, I can see the score, and I can even come in to view her submission, which is going to now trigger a new pop-up for SpeedGrader to come in, and I can see all of that information. So it gives the teacher full access to do that. Now you can do fudge points still. So if I say, ooh, that was just bad day, bad morning, you can go in and fudge point students, and it will move them to another track. Yes, ma'am.
Would you mind giving us your email address in case others have questions?
You are going to email Jody. So, yep. And but it's okay. Jody does not sit far away. With this, I have a whole page. Like it's a 2-page document that I created about get to know mastery paths is what it's called. There's also a webinar that I did. Not much has changed in a year on mastery paths back in December. It's an hour long. The first 30 minutes of it is demoing it, and then the last half hour is about answering questions from just our different Canvas customers. So I can make sure that Jody's got those, and she can send them out as a follow-up so that you'll have some of those resources.
What about the graphs in your slideshow? We were interested.
We can share those out as well. So if you want those and kind of that description of it. So absolutely, I'll make sure Jody gets those 3 great resources on it. The Get to Know Mastery Paths links to all the guides, which we love our guides with the screenshots and everything. And then it has some other elements that it links. So you will get some great resources.
Because we'd like to put them in the minutes.
Oh, perfect. Yep. Jody will get those sent to you guys. So, yes, ma'am.
Something I wanted to share is I use Mastery Path quite a bit in
Mhm.
my district for virtual high school. One of my colleagues asked about it. The content pages don't automatically default to part of the Mastery
Right.
Path, so you have to check that little box. But you don't normally see it unless Mastery Path is turned on. You have to say allow Mastery Path, otherwise when you're creating it, it won't show up. She just asked me about it. That was a frustration I had, so I was like, where is my content?
Where are my pages? So you have to come back in to your pages that you've created and just click the allow in Mastery Path. And it's, ignore the one above it. I beta things. No, that's perfect. Thank you. Sharing is caring. That's what we say on our team all the time. Any other questions, comments, concerns, feelings? Are you guys I know that's like the deepest dive right into Canvas to start off the morning with, but thank you for letting me share that with you all. Yes.
So the districts decide individually whether they want sunset
Mastery Paths?
turned on or not.
Yep, so it's a feature flag, and the way the feature flags work, so at the account level, there is an option to say on, allow, or off. So in my account, I have it turned on. So you can see here, Mastery Paths, even ignore that it says beta, but it says on. But this is where, like their learning mastery grade books for outcomes can be turned on, the student learning mastery grade books, so these different feature flags. So districts will either decide they want it all on, or when we're piloting things, like later there's a session on the gradebook enhancements. Right now, a lot of people have that as allow, so that some of their really, really super user teachers can try stuff out, and then they can move from there on if they want to push it to everybody or what they want to do. So feature flags are kind of that way to say, nope, we don't want this at all, or yes, we want some of this, or we're going to let people pick and choose kind of their adventure for it. So, yep. So some districts may have it off so they don't even know that it exists. Other questions? Okay, perfect. We'll finish with 4 minutes to spare. So that is Mastery Paths. Hopefully you can take some of that back. All right.
All right, everybody. Hello. Hi, my name is Paul Safink. I'm going to be your trainer this morning about K-6 and engaging elementary. So I know that a lot of you guys have used Canvas at the higher levels, and you're like, you know what? We just have a lot of pushback from a lot of our teachers in the elementary world that say this is just too hard, or this is just not something that we need. We're fine with what we're doing already. And I'm here to talk to you guys just a little bit about that to make sure that, is that now, I think it was feedback. Okay, so I'm here to talk to you guys just about how to make sure that you can engage students K through 6. And so a lot of things that we're going to be talking about you may know already, but it's kind of just tweaking your brain to say, all right, this is how we're going to do it for a kindergartner, or this is how we're going to do it for a 5th grader. So the first thing that we're going to be looking at is the fact that Canvas is a one-stop shop. So how many of you guys have districts that are using Canvas a lot already in the K through 6th realm? Wow. All right. This is the thing, right? Okay. So with Canvas being a one-stop shop, some of the main things that you can go ahead and start to bring up with your students is newsletters. As a communications hub, how many of your K through 6 teachers use newsletters weekly? Send out a newsletter once a month. They do, if you don't know that. They do, and they're sending them out to everybody. And so having a place where you can keep all those newsletters in one place is going to be really helpful for your teachers. What you do is permission slips. How many of your students at the K through 6 level have permission slips that they're using? This is a place where you can go ahead and make sure that those permission slips are sitting in one spot. They can download them. They don't have to come up to you and say, hey, my kid lost that permission slip. Can you please send it to me, or email it to me, or print it off for me again? I don't know how many times that happened to me, to be honest. I was a teacher for a long time, and that was one of the things that I hated the most is when I gave something to a kid, they put it in their backpack and it disappeared. I don't know how it became a black hole, but it did. All right, so then the next one is parent signups. How many of the K through 6 classes have parental signups for snacks, for volunteering, for whatever it may be? Maybe they need somebody to sign up for a field trip to be one of the chaperones. You can go ahead and create a place inside of Canvas that allows them to go ahead and sign up for those online. And it's in a Google Doc. You've got it sitting right on the side. I'm going to show you guys how that can look in just a minute. Another one is going to be weekly video messages. How many of your students have need things spoken to them as much as they need to be able to read it, right? At K through 6, a lot of them can't read yet. So being able to have a video in front of them saying, hi, my name is Mr. Safink. I'm going to be your 2nd grade teacher. Thank you so much for joining our class, or whatever it may be. That's going to be one thing that's really awesome inside of that realm. Online parent-teacher conferences is another one. Is there ever an instance where a parent can't get to school because they're working, but they have a half-hour break that they can go ahead and hop onto Canvas and do an online conference with you? This is one thing that I used in one of my classes, and it was amazing. I was able to talk to a parent over Canvas, and I didn't have any issues with them having to come to the school. So there are some instances where you can go ahead and use it for communication beyond being in the classroom, but also just doing online conferences. All right, so the next one that you guys can look at is the integrating external resources. So how many of your teachers already use tons of things like Symbaloo, or WebQuest, or Quizlet, or ThingLinks, or Nearpods? All of those things you can go ahead and integrate right into Canvas. And so we're going to be going over some of those in just a little while. And then students can access content outside of class. This is probably the one that I like the most, is the fact that a lot of the students they need to be able to see things more than one time. So giving them that option is going to be really, really awesome. Next one we can look at is students share work and display class photos. So instead of just having a place where in the classroom they're putting up posters everywhere around the room, maybe what you guys are doing in your class is talking about conservation and not going ahead and using tons of paper, right? And so instead of creating tons of posters, you can go ahead, that you're going to be putting around the walls, and then you're going to be throwing them away. What you can do is you can put this in a discussion and allow those students to go ahead and post their pictures. They can post a Prezi presentation in one space. The students can like those. They can go ahead and go through each one of those pieces. And so we're going to spend some time looking at those ones as well. And then the last one that I think is probably one of the most important is differentiation and personalized learning. This is something that I absolutely loved using inside of my classroom, is the fact that I could give one student or one group of students a different assignment very easily, and then the other group of students, I could maybe give them a fast finisher quiz. So a lot of times what I would end up doing is I would create a module for my students during centers, and at the end, if they finished everything and those students were far ahead, I would give them extra pieces to go ahead and work through. So you have modules that have requirements on those. At the end of the quiz, you can say if the student gets a 90% on this quiz, then they're able to move on to the next piece or the next module, and that can be for fast finishers. I did that a ton with discussions. I would have a discussion after we'd finish our quizzes, and then those students that were finished could go ahead and have a discussion about what they just found difficult about the quiz or whatever it may be. So those pieces where you can not just differentiate for students that need extra help in remediation, but also being able to push it so that students that are ahead can also have more things to work on. All right. So another one of those big things that we can look at is tracking student progress. How many of you guys know that data is big and it's probably going to be getting bigger? Yeah. Anyway, with that, Canvas makes it easy so you don't have to do that yourself. All right, so we're going to be looking also at gauging student participation. You can get into the analytics inside of your courses and see which students are struggling, and you can say, oh, it's probably because they're never inside of Canvas. They're never looking at anything. They're never turning anything in. You can quickly have a quick view of all the analytics for what students are able to do and how long they're spending inside of Canvas. So this is a really good thing, those analytics, when you're talking to parents, to say, hey, this is why your student's not doing well. It's not because they're not smart. That's not it. It's because they're not there. They're not participating. They're not following along. And you can actually show that with the data inside of Canvas. And it's going to be pretty easy data. There's graphs in there, so it can help them out a lot. The next one is review student products and progress over time. This is one thing that at my class, I taught Spanish. And so one of the things that I had is Spanish 1, 2, 3, and 4. And with that, after the first year, their work kept going with them. And so I was able to see what their work was like their first year that they were with me and then the fourth year that they were with me. And by using that, you can also go ahead and use e-portfolios inside of Canvas to show how the students have been doing from first grade all the way through till fifth grade or whatever it may be. The last one is providing meaningful feedback. This is probably something that is one of the strongest pieces inside of Canvas, where you can go ahead and give those students not only feedback, written feedback, but quick feedback, and you can also leave video feedback and audio feedback. So I had a lot of students in my classes that did not speak English very well, and so what I would do is I would leave them messages in Spanish with a video. Or what I would end up doing is I would spend a lot of time and I would put everything written out as well as I would read it for them. So if there were students that needed the feedback spoken to them because they weren't reading very well quite yet, maybe they were first or second graders, then I would be able to put. So the next piece that we're going to be looking at is building a 21st century learning community. So when I say that, I don't think that tech is the only thing that we need to care about when it comes to a 21st century learning community. That one, if we teach students how to be digital citizens early, we don't have to deal with a lot of those bullying issues later. We don't have to deal with a lot of the things that we know are going to come up if we tackle them right at the beginning. So having a place where it's learning community and not just a tech community where everything's just online all the time. Modeling appropriate online interactions. One thing I love is that with Canvas, you've got a space where they're not anonymous. A lot of students, when they're anonymous online, they end up doing things that they probably shouldn't be doing, right? And so inside of Canvas, this is the piece that I like the most, is that they're not going to be sitting there anonymous inside of Canvas. Everything that they do is going to show up for you, the teacher or the administrator, and so they're not going to be able to hide from anything they did. And those can be those pieces where maybe when they're younger, you're able to give some learning moments, right? Say, hey, that was not the best way to handle that situation. Or maybe if you're doing a discussion and you've had all the students post all of their assignments that they're going over, and they're replying to it, and they say, that was stupid. You can go ahead and remove that, but then you can also talk to the student about it. So modeling appropriate online interactions with your students early is better than doing it when they get into 8th grade. In 8th grade, they're trying to push some boundaries, and I would rather deal with those boundaries much earlier. Using discussions and chat to build community, this is something that we use a ton on all of those different digital forums. So we've got Facebook, or we have Snapchat. And if we're teaching the students how to actually use those correctly inside of a classroom, then they're going to be much better at being able to use that outside of the classroom. So improving digital literacy, this is a piece that a lot of those students that are, I know that a lot of people say, well, my students don't have the ability to do these things. They're going to have to be able to do a lot of, they're going to need to be digitally literate outside of class. And so we want to be able to get them started early on that. I know that at a lot of the districts here in Utah, we have lots of one-to-one classrooms, as well as we've got carts where you're sharing an iPad with a few different students. And so being able to talk about digital literacy is going to be really awesome. Another one is gamifying things inside of Canvas. I love to be able to gamify and make things fun for the students. I also like to make sure that when I'm using Canvas that I use spaces as well. So what I would do is I put QR codes on different parts of the room and have the students take their phone, whatever it may be, because I don't know if you guys know this, Snapchat is a QR reader, and so they all have Snapchat. Anyway, if you go up to a QR code, you can link that to any page inside of Canvas, so they can be walking around and gamifying it. You can say, all right, do a scavenger hunt here or there, and if you get that one, there's going to be questions that you can answer on that, based on that little spot in the room. So maybe you want to go ahead and teach the students how to go ahead and to learn how to use the library. You can go ahead and put a QR code in one area and then give them a clue to go to the next area. And you can have videos that are associated with those. So gamifying and then badging is also another thing. How many of you guys use badges inside of your, how many of you guys have seen teachers use badges in their classrooms? Okay, not very many. I'm surprised. All right, so I'm gonna give you guys a few examples now. Instead of just talking, I know I've been just rambling on at you. But students with substitutes, this is one thing that I used a ton inside of my classroom, and while I've been training around the country, I've also seen this a bunch, because we train while school's in session. So a lot of times what they end up doing is they create a module for the students, and those students are able to walk through that module with those requirements. How many of you guys have used requirements quite yet in modules? All right, if you've not, let's go ahead and take a quick look at that. So I'm going to go into one of my courses here. There's my 2nd grade rocks. Okay. And we've got modules in here. And if you go up to the side, there's going to be the ability to go ahead and add requirements and prerequisites. When you're adding requirements, you can go ahead and, if it's a quiz, you can say students must get a certain score on this. So you can walk them through each piece as you're doing a substitute lesson. So you can have videos that, it's basically a flipped classroom, but while the substitute's there. How many times do substitutes not follow the lesson plans? I don't know if I ever had one actually follow my lesson plan. So I started to do this because I didn't trust them, to be honest, and this way I put the ownership on the students and not on the substitute. All right, let's go ahead and move back to there. Another one is that a lot of teachers are able to have access to PD, and they use it, if you didn't know. And so we had an instance where there was a little kid, and it was a K through 12 or K through 6 classroom, and there was a student that ended up sending a message to her to the teacher during her PD saying, I don't know how to do this part, can you help me? And so they were talking to the student through Canvas using the inbox. So this was a fun little thing. But let's look at the next one, reading with parents. Canvas has been a really great way to go ahead and show what happens inside the classroom or show what happens outside of the classroom with a digital footprint, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at what one of those reading with parents might look like. Okay. So this is read to someone. That's the first thing that they're going to be able to do is they're going to listen to the Very Hungry Caterpillar. And then after that, they're going to click next down at the bottom for that next module. And now it's going to say what they need to do now is record themselves reading out loud to their parent or to somebody else. And then they've got a place inside of Canvas that can show the teacher that the student is actually doing that homework. A lot of times, in the past, what we've had is the parents have to sign, right? That the kid read it to them. But now we can actually see it so we can go ahead and look at the issues that student's having. Maybe the student's struggling with a specific word. We can go ahead and check that out. So reading with parents is one of those. Another one would be the virtual reading logs. So we have a new thing inside of Canvas, which is duplicating assignments. Have you guys used that yet? Okay, there's a duplicating assignments. There's lots of assignments that happen more than once, right? So you've got what's that? It is. Duplicating assignments and also duplicating pages are both available. We'll be talking about that a little bit later more, but what we can do with those virtual logs is maybe you've got a Monday. Every Monday you have the exact same reading log. And so what you can do is you can either create that as a Google document. How many of you guys have used Google inside your classrooms or taught your students how to do that? All right. Let me just grab that one. There it is. A weekly reading log. So you can go ahead and put in there a cloud assignment. How many of you guys know what cloud assignments are? Okay, a cloud assignment is basically just taking a template and throwing it out to the students and they get a unique copy and they're able to play on that. And so you can create a document inside of Google and they can just fill that out. And every week you can go ahead and do the same one. This is those weekly reading logs for those students. It's the stuff that basically all of your K-6 teachers are already using, but instead of having 100 places to send those students, instead of trying to get them to log into lots of different URLs, have you guys ever tried to get a bunch of 5-year-olds to type in a URL that is 400 characters long? Not without lots of help. Exactly. I think there was one time before I started using Canvas in my classroom that it took me 40 minutes to get the students to the right website. That is when I decided I'm done with that. I'm going to go ahead and start to utilize Canvas a little bit more. So those weekly reading logs, another one is going to be a virtual gallery. So I talked about this a little bit earlier about discussions, putting projects in there. So let's go ahead and take a look at a virtual gallery. So this one's going to be the metamorphosis of a butterfly. Draw a picture of the metamorphosis of a butterfly, and the students are going to be able to upload their own pictures that they've drawn. This was not an actual drawing from that student, because it's too good. Anyway, the next one, they can even go ahead and reply. So if the student puts something in that area, you can go ahead and have a little video. All right. There it is. It's me talking. You can also have the students add prezzies or add different things into their discussions. So instead of going ahead and just having them upload a picture, they can upload a presentation that they've created. So let's go ahead and watch how this might work. There we are, the life cycle of a butterfly. They can make it bigger as well. But this is a place where every single student can go ahead and start to add that information into there. How many of you guys have ever had students or teachers using prezzies inside the classroom and they're needing to somehow get it online, this is a way that they no longer have to sign up on the class. They can even come up in front of the class. They can upload it into that area, and then maybe what they do is they come up and do a live presentation for the students, but they've all just been uploaded into that area. So they can come up in front of everybody and then click on the make it big and then start from the beginning. And then they can come up in front of the class. So that way that the teachers don't have to spend the time getting the students to log in the Prezi account and then do that presentation in front of everybody. Right. So another one would be audio discussions that the students can do. So a lot of your students are K through 12. Maybe you're doing a show and tell for your kindergartners. You want to go ahead and show them how to upload videos. They have the option inside of their discussion to go ahead and click reply. And when they click reply, oops, wrong one. They have this button right here for, oops, wrong one. There it is. They can record and upload media, so they can go ahead and speak to themselves. Again, I was a Spanish teacher, and so what I had is a bunch of Spanish students going ahead and describing themselves. So instead of having them write down a description of themselves, what I had them do is speak it onto the discussion, and then the other students responded to them orally as well. So they had a conversation, but it wasn't a live conversation, but it still was an oral conversation. And that's one of those things we miss a lot when we have classes that are really participation heavy.
Quick question.
Yeah.
What are you using to spotlight?
I use a thing called Mouse Pose. All right. Okay, so with those media recordings, we're going to go ahead and spend just a little bit of time talking about those a little bit more and embedding them into our courses. So media is probably the heaviest piece that we can use inside of Canvas. So let's go ahead and take a look at using that media recording in the announcement. So in the inbox itself, if you go into the inbox over here, you click on that quill button right here, or the feather. Somebody once called it a feather. See that? Yeah. If we click on that one, there's the ability to add and record media right here. So if you record media, I'm not going to record it. Oops, I did it. Sometimes it's really heavy when Adobe Connect's running at the same time as anything. It's destroying the world. Yeah, so I apologize. It's going to take me a second because now I've got that spinning beach ball of death. So there we go. It's gone. So inside of this area, you can go ahead and have the students respond to you, or you can respond to the students in the inbox using that video messaging. The video messaging is really helpful for those younger students. You'd be surprised at how well and how able they are to create videos and upload them, because all they have to do is come to that button right there and record themselves. You'll see that a first grader and a second grader is just as able to do this as a high schooler, maybe even more so. That was a joke because I was a high school teacher. Man, there were some rough days. That's all I have to say. Okay. So in announcements, announcements is another fantastic place to go ahead and utilize that media recording. So let's go ahead and get back into one of my courses. I'm going to go into that second grade course again. All right. So we've got those announcements sitting right here. I can go ahead and create an announcement that has a video in there. Maybe that announcement is one that I want to use for to go ahead and tell the students what's happening or what's coming up this week. Maybe it's an announcement that says, this week make sure that you bring your lunch money, because you've all forgotten for the past few weeks and I've had to pay it out of my own pocket. All right, so those announcements. Another one would be a homepage welcome video. So let's go ahead and take a look at my homepage for this course. And I know that you guys have probably seen something similar to this, where you've made your own buttons that link to different places inside of Canvas. But many of you guys probably have not added a weekly video. This is just a video from from YouTube. You can go ahead and upload your own media in there, or you can embed your YouTube videos that you've already created. So this is one of a third grade teacher going ahead and talking about all the things that she's going to be doing this year. And there we go. So you can go ahead and have those weekly messages or daily messages. Maybe you've got that in there. And this is really helpful, especially for those students that don't show up to class every day, right? Anything that you can go ahead and put into Canvas means that the teacher's not spending that amount of time going ahead and passing out those papers or getting that student. They're able to go ahead and follow along with the course just by listening to that message or whatever it may be. All right, so another one would be the modules and content pages. You can go ahead and add and embed that media into there, or grading feedback. So if I go back into one of my courses here and I go into the grades, let's click on the grades here. I can go ahead and add feedback here, or I can go into the SpeedGrader and add videos in the SpeedGrader area. Down here at the bottom, maybe it's going to say something like, you could do better on this, or something. Nobody's with me. Nobody's laughing. Come on, guys. This is not the worst thing ever, is it? All right, so. Okay. So what I'm going to have you guys do is, I don't like to just sit here and talk the whole time, even though I have for a long time. We're going to have you guys just for a second go ahead and find a new place where you can go ahead and add video. Maybe you want to add that on the home page if you created a home page. Maybe you want to go ahead and just put that on a content page. But first, select a page and you can click plus page. Use the media recording feature. Add a video message. Just remember, if you are in fact logged into Adobe Connect, it's going to struggle because Adobe Connect is really heavy on the bandwidth. All right. The next one is then just using that media record feature, add an audio message. All right. So I'm going to give you guys just a quick second, but before I do that, I want to say one last thing about media. There are lots of accommodations that are needed for students inside of classes, and one of those main accommodations is that students have quizzes read to them. You can go to any place inside of Canvas, whether it's a quiz question, whether it's an assignment, anything that you've written, you can go ahead and record yourself reading that for them, and then they're going to be able to have that accommodation or modification met. So that way you don't have to go ahead and every time that student needs something read for them, you just do it up front, and every single time the student wants to go back through it, they can listen to that recording. All right, so I'm going to give you guys about a minute or two to go ahead and do this. As soon as you guys are done, well, actually, in just about a minute or two, I'll come back. All right, I'm guessing you guys are done because you guys are talking like crazy over here. All right, so we're going to come back and we're going to be talking about a few other things that you can do inside of your courses. One of them is going to be scavenger hunts and fun assignments. So, scavenger hunts, I talked about that just a little bit a minute ago. But a scavenger hunt could be using those QR codes. So let's go ahead and give you guys an example of what that might look like in a classroom. All right. All right, so we're going to go into my modules over here. And in my modules, I have a library scavenger hunt. Let's go ahead and take a look at what this is going to look like for the students. All right. So in a K through 6 classroom, it's probably going to be a little bit more heavy on visuals than it's going to be on written stuff. So what I would do in a lot of these situations is I would put an audio recording of anything that I am writing, if it's going to be especially for those kindergarten, first grade students. But basically how this is going to work is there's a quiz right here. And they're going to walk around with their QR codes, and it's going to be linked to a page that has the answer to this question. So they're going to walk around the room, they're going to find that QR code, they're going to take their phone or their device, they're going to take a picture of that, and then it's going to open them up to a page inside of Canvas that is linked to there. And then the question's going to list both of the names of the ladies that are at the library desk. So then they'll walk through that. And then there's going to be a quiz, or there's going to be something else after that quiz that's going to say, now go here. And they'll click next. Here's one more. They need to find the last name of the author of this book. And they'll be able to use those QR codes again as they're walking around. So that's going to be one of those scavenger hunts. I loved doing that one also for, not just for scavenger hunts, I love using QR codes for centers, because anytime that you've got a student that doesn't have the instructions, they're not going to follow along very well. So if I had a QR code that would open up a video that would say, now you need to do this, or it would open up something else for them, that's how I would use those QR codes. Another one might, yeah?
So, they have to be logged into their Canvas instance first before they start. Otherwise, if they were linked to the Canvas page, right?
Correct. Correct. You could do that, or what you could do is you could use that QR code, and you'll basically allow them to go ahead and get to a different page that's not going to be linking them inside of Canvas.
But if you want them to do the activity inside Canvas.
Correct. Yeah. And so a lot of times what you could have them do is, if they're on a device, just make sure that they're logged in prior to doing that.
And see, that would be a good way to get around, because in the Salt Lake District, a lot of stuff is blocked from kids.
Correct.
Even if it's not inappropriate. So if you had your photos and your stuff inside Canvas, they could still access
Exactly.
it. So that's good.
Exactly. So another one is going to be using the apps that are already on a lot of those devices. So pick Collage, for example. You can go ahead and have them take a picture of 10 different places inside of the school. And then they need to go ahead and upload that, and we can have that uploaded into a discussion like we did earlier. Remember how we had those visual galleries? We can go ahead and use that one. Or Toontastic is another really good one that's going to allow them to create a cartoon. And then they can go ahead and paste that one into the discussion as well.
Is there a limit on size of files for that?
For those, there is a limit, but that's going to be based upon you at the institution. So there is a specific quota that's set up for each school. It's usually going to be for a course, a certain amount, and then for a user, a certain amount. And if you are finding that it's not enough, just go ahead and talk to your administrator and they'll bump it up for your course. Courses have different quotas, and so it's not associated with a user specifically. All right, so the next one we're going to be looking at is announcements as a class blog. How many teachers already use class blogs and they're like, I don't want to do this because I already have my class blog, I know how it works, I know how pretty it is, and I just want to go ahead and send out my class blog as a newsletter in my announcements page. So what they can end up doing is they can go into their account. They're going to go into the button that says announcements. And right over here, they can click on add an external feed. If they add this external feed, it's going to ask for that URL. And the URL is going to be the name of their blog. So maybe they're using a blog space like EduBlogs or something like that. They can bring that in. It's just every time they do another blog post, it's going to show up as an announcement for the students. That's a really nice way because there are so many teachers that already use and utilize blogs, and they're like, I don't need to learn another system. All I need to do is put in what I already do. As soon as they start to realize, oh, I can just do it inside Canvas, they'll stop. But this is a great way to get them to that point, right? So another one with those announcements that's really helpful, if I click on this announcement, I'm going to be at my home page right here. I've created and put announcements at the top of my page. This is now available at any home page, not just the content page view. So there's a recent announcement. You can have up to 15 on the front page. I don't like many more than 3. Much more than 3 takes over the page and it's really messy. But if you click on that one, you can view the announcement, or there's a permission slip that is linked directly to that area. So like they can click on that permission slip It'll open that up as a Google Doc. The parents can fill it out. And now you have all of your permission slips inside of Canvas utilizing the announcements. All right. So we talked a little bit about centers a minute ago, using the QR codes for centers. But let's talk about going ahead and looking at a center not through a module, but through a content page, utilizing what are called buttons. All right. So here's a center. So basically what you can do is you can create a button on the home page that says centers. So as we're looking right here on the home page, I could make one of these buttons say centers. They could click on it and it would take them to that page that we were just on. And then it will take them to the centers for August 24th. So reading, it's going to be listening to the Three Little Pigs. The next one might be science. Find the oops. An error analysis. This is not science, this is math. I apologize. All right, so you can find some errors. So maybe there's an error in the way that the student is adding or subtracting, and they can go ahead and find what that is. That's going to be a little bit higher, right? Probably around 4th, 5th grade maybe. You're able to do that at lower grades. You can also go ahead and use math centers by utilizing some of our apps. So Quizlet, for example, you could say, go ahead and use this one. I love Quizlet because you can go ahead and do the matching. And especially with addition, you've got 6 plus 5 is 11. 4 plus 4 is 8. So making the centers something where the students can go ahead and practice. Let's go ahead and look at one other.
Is Quizlet one of the extras that you have to turn on?
Yes, it is. It is an app. Yep.
Yeah. But is that one of the ones that your district has to say you can?
No, you can go ahead and put that into any course, whether you are the admin or you're the teacher.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And the way that you do that, we'll be talking about that in just a minute, is by going to settings. We'll go ahead and head through that in just a minute here. All right. So virtual field trips and web quests. This is something that the teachers in the K through 6 use all the time, right? They already do these things, so instead of placing it on another website, they can just go to it directly inside of Canvas. So let's go ahead and take a look at what one of those might end up looking like inside of Canvas. So I've got a virtual field trip of using a third-party website called S'more. Have you guys ever heard of S'more? Okay, S'more, you can go ahead and embed it really quickly by using the HTML editor and copy and pasting that iframe and sticking it right into there. But this is really helpful because this is from one of my colleagues. She made it, and she was a teacher. She was a social studies teacher. So she had a course that was about Colonial Williamsburg. So she had what is that, and then on this one there was a video, and then there was also a virtual tour, an actual virtual tour of the virtual Williamsburg 1776. Then what you would end up doing is down at the bottom, it says, when finished, submit your travel journal and field trip photos and stories in the Canvas assignment. So what they would do is they just click next, it would take them to their assignment, and then they would upload it. So you're going to be taking a virtual tour inside of Canvas, then the next button would be the assignment that's associated with it. Maybe there's a quiz that's associated with it. So if they're going on a field trip of the Aztec ruins, say, what is the name of the ball game that was played in the Mayans. I said the wrong. So, all right. So we've got those virtual field trips and web quests. Oops. But now we're going to be talking just quickly. We just saw with adding that S'more. What you're talking about right now is adding those embed codes. There is all sorts of ways to add a lot of these websites into your courses. Some of the ones that are my favorite are Poplet, Padlet, Prezi, ThingLink, and Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle is awesome because you can go ahead and have you guys seen Edpuzzle? Yeah? There's quite a few places where you can go ahead and add these in there. So let's go ahead and take a look at what some of these might look like. here's an Ed puzzle. So we've added some information about the Ed puzzle, and then there's a video. Let's go ahead and watch that.
First of all, there's alliteration. You might be familiar with this.
So today we're going to learn about alliteration, so take a minute and watch.
Sorry, it's now because of all of the Adobe Connect. It's got some weird echoes on it. But basically, right here, we've added something. There's also a quiz question that's going to come up in just a second. So let's go ahead and click play for a little bit longer. All right. Ed puzzle pulls up a question. It says, alliteration is repeated of a repetition of two consonants in a row. That's false. No, it's true. It's going to show me the correct answer. So Ed puzzle is one of those things that you can bring into Canvas. So let's go ahead and talk about how we actually get those in. So I'm going to be using a ThingLink. How many of you guys have used ThingLinks in your classes? All right, ThingLink is one of my favorites. So in most websites, you've got the share button right there, and it's going to ask you for an iframe. If it has an iframe, all you do is just copy and paste that, and then you're going to go back into your course. You're going to go in and make a page. Clicking too fast. All right, and then I'm going to go into the HTML editor here and paste that in there. And as, what was your name? Celia was saying you can go ahead and change sizes in here as well by clicking on the width and height. So if you need to change the size of what you're bringing in. But otherwise, you can go back to the rich content editor and say ThingLink. Or call it endangered animals. Click on Save and Publish. And now we've added that into that page. There are lots of websites that allow you to add them in there and they give you the embed code, but some do not. And if you do not have the option to go and do it, there are some ways around that by going to what's called an iframe generator. You can go in there. There is some trial and error on that one. Some websites will work and some will not. A lot of them have to do with the fact that they need to be what are called secure sites. So if it doesn't have HTTPS, then it's probably not going to be opening up inside of Canvas. There are also a few websites that are going to say, I don't want to be opened up inside of another website, and they just block it inside of the coding itself. So I've tried it with different websites, like what's one that, YouTube, for example, is one of those that there are some pieces inside of the whole page itself. If you try to bring in YouTube, it won't open up. One of the ones that I really love to be able to use and embed is going to be my Google Docs. But there are all sorts of Prezzies, Poplets, Padlets, ThingLinks, and Ed puzzles. And so what I want you guys to do is just find a website of something that you know your teachers already use and check out and see if there is an embed code for it. If there's not, try to find another one, or I can go ahead and see if I can help you guys out if it says HTTPS and go ahead and show you guys how to use the iframe generator. So go ahead and try that. The way that we're going to do that one more time is we're going to go into our pages. We're going to create a new page by clicking plus page. We'll go into this HTML editor. We're going to grab the website that we were using. So there it was. I found the page. Go back into it. Type that in there, and then you can test it out by going back to the rich content editor, and then make sure that you put a name at the top and save. I'm going to go ahead and put that up there for you guys. If you guys have questions or would like me to go ahead and help you guys, just raise your hand. But I'm going to give you guys a few moments to do that. If you've already done this and you're like, this is all new to me, or this is not new to me, go ahead and try doing the iframe generator. That's something that you'll have to play around with, and I'll be around to answer questions. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. I don't have a lot more for this session, but we've got just a few things, and a lot of it is going to be making sure that you guys can take this information that we're talking about today and use it inside of your schools. So we just went ahead and, let's see, Justin, do I need to do, I don't have your password. to get started in about a second here. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to be looking at really quickly is some recommended apps. It looks like a lot of you guys already know how to use apps. The ones that I've found to be some of the most helpful inside of my classrooms and also inside the classrooms that I've seen around the country is Nearpod especially. Nearpod is an awesome one to utilize. Quizlet is just really straightforward, right? And anybody can use it, so it's one of those ones that a lot of teachers at least have some options because they've already at least created one Quizlet deck. Some of the other ones that I really like are ScoopPad, EduCreations. And so we're not going to go through all these ones. I'm just going to quickly kind of just talk about those ones. But what I would like to do is show you guys just one other piece. And this is going to be an app that maybe some of you guys have used before, or maybe you have not. How many of you guys have used the Redirect app before? Okay, I've used this a ton. And there's a new thing that I just was playing around with in my head the last few days. And this one I found really helpful for K through 6. Let's go back into my course. Oops, that's the wrong course. And if you guys look on the side of my, I'm going to actually leave that one. I'm going to go to Student View for you. There we are. Student View. So if you guys look right here, I have a button that says Volunteer. And if I click on that button that says Volunteer, it's going to take me to a Google Doc that is a volunteer sign-up sheet. The way that I got this is I created a redirect tool that redirected a space right into Canvas. So the thing that's really nice about this is that Google opens up inside of Canvas. You don't have to worry about there being permissions or whatever. If you've linked the doc or the URL, it's going to open up right there. So let's go ahead and walk you through that. There are lots of instances where this can be useful in the K through 6 classroom. This is one that I was like, it just blew my mind the other day. I was thinking about it, and I know how many times this would have been helpful for me inside of my classes, and we didn't have the integration yet. So let's go back into our course, and if you guys want to follow along with me to add this, then you can. So inside of the App Center, so you're clicking on Settings inside of the specific course that you're in, and you're going to click up here where it says Apps. And then what you're going to do is you're going to type in Redirect. The Redirect tool can be added a ton of times. It's not just one time. You can install it 100 times if you'd like. It's going to make it really hard, though, because there's going to be too many things on the course navigation bar. But let's go ahead and choose the Redirect tool. And then I'm going to click on Add App. I'm going to go ahead and add something else here. How many of you guys have ever heard of Duolingo? Okay, Duolingo is a really great site that a lot of K through 6, as well as high school and also higher ed use to help students learn languages. And so I'm going to go ahead and use Duolingo just to show you that this works. Remember, we just did this with the Google Doc. So you can do this with Duolingo or the Google Doc that you already have. And I'm going to type in here the actual URL to that website. So it's going to be www.duolingo.com. And these are the two main things that I want you guys to be aware of. It says force open the new tab. This means that if you click on that tab button, it's going to open up in a new browser or a new tab inside that same browser. But what if you wanted to open up directly inside of Canvas? This is something that's really important because if the students are getting outside of Canvas, you lose them. And so anytime that you can keep a student inside of Canvas, it's going to be the best. So let's go ahead and let's unclick that one and say show in course navigation. You will not be able to force open every website. This has to do with the fact that there's some websites that don't like to play nice. So that's going to be, for example, I'm not going to give any examples because I don't want to say bad things about people. So we've got show, I'm just going to use Duolingo. This one does allow us to open it up directly inside of Canvas. So I'm going to click on the Add App. And once I've added the app, it's not there. Uh-oh, what do? I need to refresh it, exactly. All right, so I've refreshed it. There it is, Duolingo down at the bottom. I'm going to click on Duolingo. And there I have it. Duolingo is now opened up inside of Canvas by having a little button on the sidebar. There are all sorts of uses for this one. I would keep it to a minimum. I would use only the ones that are necessary and then remove them if they're no longer necessary inside your classroom. For K through 6 especially, the more buttons that you have, the more confusing it is and the more places students can get lost. So if we look back on my course over here, you can see I only have 5 there, and I probably could get rid of a lot of them. I don't need chat or files. I could probably just keep home and announcements and then the volunteer tab. That's it. And then anything that I want them to get into, whether it's a quiz or something like that, I'm going to have them going through the modules to get to those places. All right. So the last thing that we're going to do today is I'm going to have you grab my module that you can take that has a lot of the information and a lot of the apps that we've gone through so you can play around with them and see how they're going to function. So what I would like you guys to do is go to the Commons. If you don't know where the Commons is, it is going to be right here. It's going to look like that. Go ahead and click on the Commons. Once you click on the Commons, search Engaging Elementary. We'll go ahead and go into the Commons and we'll walk you through that process. Engaging. Oops. This is really hard to spell with one hand. Come on. What's going on? It's under somebody else's. It is Christy Johnson. Yep, she's one of the people in the training team. So if you click on the Engaging Elementary, you can go ahead and import this into one of your courses. I would highly suggest that you do this into a sandbox. For me, a lot of times what I end up doing is I create a new course for every single time that I'm going to be bringing in a full course, and I just call it my Commons Preview course. So what I would do is go into my dashboard, click on the button over here that says New Courses, and then I would create a Commons Preview course. And then click Create Course. All right. So there's going to be a lot of things in here. I'm also going to go ahead and we'll get you guys my slides that I used today that you guys can go ahead and check out later. There was a lot of stuff on there that that maybe you guys were like, that was easy, I got that. But maybe there's 1 or 2 things that you guys would like to check out in the future. There's going to be one last thing that I want to go ahead and talk about before we end, which is going to be home pages for badges. I know that a lot of you guys know how to create home pages, but I just want to give you guys one of my favorite websites that I use to go ahead and create things that look really pretty for kids. So the one that I like to use the most is Canva. Have you guys used that one before? Okay, if you've not used Canva, it is going to be your best friend. So Canva has a ton of really pretty free things that you guys can utilize to create badges. The badge size that you saw on my course right here was 200 by 200. I like to do that for those courses. I don't like to do much bigger than that, and I also don't like to do anything wider than about 3 on a table. A lot of times I don't even like to use tables because they can get a little bit hard when you're utilizing iPhones and things like that. So if you guys can keep things smaller, it's better. But what you could end up doing as well is having 3 columns. Not 3 columns, is that right? Anyway, sometimes when you're in front of people, you just lose words. All right, so if you guys have not had a chance to use Canva, it's really easy to utilize and make really pretty little buttons. So I've got quite a few buttons that I've created inside of here. Let me show you some of them. So we've got something like class announcements, or classroom information, enter course, class newsletter, the learning resources. Right. So that is basically all that I have for you guys today on Engaging Elementary. There's lots of things that you guys have already been doing in your other grades that work really well. You just kind of have to tweak it and tweak the wording and the verbiage for those teachers. Because as soon as you say, this is going to save you time, and you can go ahead and have all of your signups in one space, you can go ahead and have conferences with those teachers, with those parents, using our conferencing tool. Have any of you guys ever used conferencing for a parent-teacher conference? No. Have you guys ever thought about doing it? Maybe. We also had, at one of my schools that I was at, there was a bomb threat, and we still had to conduct classes, but the students didn't show up, obviously. So what we ended up doing is we had a virtual classroom. So we did a conference, and the students were able to go ahead and watch the class from home. It's also a really good thing for students with home and hospital. So those conferencing tools, you guys can use a ton as well. Anyway, I want to thank you guys so much for just giving me your ear for about an hour and a half. You guys have been really, really awesome. I'll be talking about a few more things in a few minutes, but thank you guys so much. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Justin.
There's a lot of familiar faces in here and also some unfamiliar faces. There's been some changes since the last time I was here. For those of you who don't know me, and I think there's a few of you, my name is Mindy Hinsey, and I'm Director of Product Engagement with Instructure. I work with all of our products, not just Canvas. And I used to work for UEN. I was with UEN for about 3.5 years, and then before that I was in public education for a long time, classroom teacher, administrator, all that good stuff. So I'm here to talk to you a little bit about Canvas Community. How many of you have logged into the community and used it? Okay, good. There's some of you, but I'm sad that it's not all of you. So this is what the community looks like, and I'm going to do a live demo in just a second. But this is a great place where you can find answers, share ideas, and join groups. I wanted to give you some interesting statistics about our community. We set a new record of over 210,000 users last week. We're right around 2,000, almost, here we are, total users, 2,011,633. That's a lot of users in an online community. That's a lot. And we have around 22,000 active users every single day. That means on any given day, we've got about 22,000 people who are either contributing content, asking a question, making a suggestion, or helping somebody else out. Now, when Canvas became a product in about 2011, there was no community. There was a listserv. How many of you remember the listserv days, right? And it wasn't even started by somebody who worked for Canvas. It was started by some people who were at Utah State. And our founders always wanted to have a huge online community. They just didn't know how to make that happen at first. And one of my first jobs with UEN was to create guides for Canvas. How many of you have listened to my voice over and over and over again on video tutorials? I'm so sorry. I'm hoping that those are slowly phasing out as the product changes, because there were no guides, there were no tutorials. And now in this community, we have some pretty amazing things. And I think one of the cool things are smaller groups, so subgroups within this large global community. Oh, I'm sorry, these are our most viewed documents. So obviously the guides are gonna get the most hits. How many of you have used the guides? Yeah, how many of you send those to your teachers or your end users when they're like, how do I create an assignment? And you just send them the link right to the guide. Yeah. Canvas Studio is interesting that it's right up there in the top 5. Canvas Studio is where you can find out how the product's going to be changing. It's what's on the roadmap for product. So that might be a group that you want to join. And then if you are not part of the release note groups, I highly recommend that you are. You should all be receiving email of the release notes, of the updates that happen every 3 weeks. But even so, join the group, because then you can quickly find all of the release notes, all of the videos that we put together on the new features. We have about 50 active groups, and the two that are the most active are for the instructional designers and the admin groups. How many of you are members of either of those groups? Just a couple people, wow, okay. And we do have two groups that are specific to Utah. So we have the Utah K-12 user group and the Utah Higher Ed admin group. So those might be, again, some other groups that you want to join. And I know Jody talked about those in some recent conversations that she's had with you. Okay, so now let me get into the live demo. So this is what the community looks like. And you can easily search for something. Can you? What am I doing wrong? Thank you. Okay, so I can search the community for a topic. Let's say that I'm curious about mastery paths because Leslie just gave you a great demo on that. So if I just put mastery paths in the, you can't hear me. Now you can hear me. I don't know how to make this work.
It's not very sensitive.
Okay. Here,
I'll hold it for you. Okay.
There, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay, so if you search for mastery, I didn't swear, and there's no video, so I'm good. I'm good on that one. Okay. So if I search for mastery paths, I'm going to see all the content that's related to mastery paths in the community. And these different icons mean different things. The blue icon are the how-tos. Those are the guides. And then the little light bulb, these are suggestions that people are making. And when those open for voting, you can vote on that feature saying, yes, I agree. Now, if this had a group associated with it, that would be down here under the places. And if there were a person who was either a strong contributor to that type of content around that topic, you would see them here as well. So I'm just going to do another search quickly for assignments. And you can see, again, there's over 100 matches. There's a few groups. These are internal groups that you won't be able to see. I'm logged in with my company account. And then here are 8 people who are super active around those topics. And if you click on a person's name, you'll see their profile. And if you like this person and you think, oh, this person has something in common with me, maybe we can share some good ideas, you can follow that person, and then anytime that person posts something, you'll get a notification. So we have lots of people following our product managers. Lots of people follow Leslie. She posts lots of good things in the community. My team is super active in there, so you'll see lots of product engagement people, and you'll start to get to know their names. Now, there is a little gamification including this. Sometimes the community hosts scavenger hunts or trivia contests and things like that. You can earn points, and your social status within the community goes up if any of you are interested. I clearly am not very active because I don't think that I even have points. So we're not allowed to have points. Did they change that? They changed that? I didn't know that. We used to have points. I had some. They took them away. Boo. Okay. And then to join a group, let me just show you right here. Here is the International K-12 group. So if I click on that, I will again be able to ask a question, start a discussion, view all the resources, or view all the members within this group. And I can search for content by clicking on the little content button right there in the menu bar. I can filter by the newest documents or the newest content. And I can also filter by things that are marked as official or things that have been marked as helpful. So if you haven't been using the community, I highly recommend it. And I also encourage you to tell your teachers about it, because this is going to be another place where they can get support and get their questions answered. I can't tell you how many times we see comments in the community, like a 7th grade teacher saying, hey, I'm trying to do some interactive work with my math students. Does anybody have a recommendation of an app that works well with Canvas or an LTI tool? Or how do you manage stations with Canvas? So there are conversations around not just Canvas, the product, but around instructional practice and how Canvas is supporting those instructional practices. So please get in there and use it. And what's really cool for your teachers or even for yourself when you are in Canvas, if you click on the help button that's on your global navigation while you're in Canvas, one of the options you have is to search the guides that will take you to the community, or you can ask the community and get help from a community expert. We also have Canvas coaches that are people who are not employed by Canvas, however they are active in the community. They have lots of points. And so we've made them official Canvas coaches, and they're in there willing and eager to help you with any of your questions.
So some of the new things that have come out this year are things that a lot of people have been wanting for forever, and they're finally here. So I'm just going to go over them really quickly. We're not going to go super in-depth on any of these, but I have a minute later where I'm going to be talking a little bit more about Blueprint later in the day. So if you guys want to talk to me more about Blueprint, we will. But Blueprint courses basically are a way for you to go ahead and push content out. So the way that you guys brought something into your courses through Commons, now you get to push that content out to teachers. So maybe you have a master course that you've got, you want to go ahead and push out something later in the year, maybe a discussion or a document. You can go ahead and allow that to sync, and it's going to push out automatically. That's going to be really good for those teachers that really hate going in and pulling something into Commons, even though it's only 2 clicks. There are teachers that struggle with it. So this is going to be the way to go ahead and do that. I've seen a lot of districts, what they do is they start off and they send out a template to every single teacher. They associate those courses, and then after that initial association, they go ahead and say, now it's your course. Basically, it's just a space that you can go ahead and push content to teachers so that they don't have to do it themselves going into the Commons. All right, we're going to be going into in-depth on how to do it a little bit later. I think it's about 1 o'clock this afternoon, so you guys can come over and talk to me if you want to learn more. Does anybody have any questions on that? Awesome. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So the next one's going to be the Canvas Doc Viewer. So we used to use Crocodoc and Box, and they were not so awesome sometimes. So we made our own, and now the one that we have gives you quite a few more options, as well as it allows you to support lots of different file types that were not supported earlier. Earlier it was basically just PDFs, DocX, and Excel spreadsheets, and then PowerPoints. Now you've got a lot more that are able to be brought in and annotated on top of. So we're going to go ahead and take a minute and look at what that can look like in one of your classes. This is tiny. There we go. All right, so I'm going to go into my American History course and go into my grade book. And now inside of your Speed Grader, you're going to be seeing some more options at the top. How many of you guys have had a chance to use the new Doc Viewer? All right, so the pieces that are there are going to be the ability to zoom in and zoom out. You now have a little pin point, and so you can go ahead and pinpoint that on there. So maybe this is a student and it's Rebecca and she's put her name in purple, and you ask, why is this purple? Because that's stupid anyway. The next one you can do is going to be highlighting. So you can highlight something and maybe tell the student that this area in particular is terrible. Okay. Then we've got another one which is going to be able to add some text. So you can say do better, like that right there, or good job, or do better next time. Those are some ones that you can add. The next one's going to be strikeout. This is my favorite because there's lots of times that I like to say this. This is the worst sentence ever, and I can show them what I hate. So you can cross it out like that in the strikeout box. Again, I would never do this to a real student, but the next one is going to be a drawing. So maybe I want to go ahead and just X something out. Say this is exactly what I was talking about that I don't like. You can go ahead and draw over the top of it. Okay, the last one that's on there is going to be a box that surrounds an area. And so you could surround a whole area and say, this is the worst thing I've ever seen, possibly. Just like that. And the thing that's very different is that when you used to have the doc viewer, all you had was one color, and now you can add lots of different colors up here in the corner. So you can choose what those are. All right. And if you want to go ahead and download that document, there's a button right here as well to download that PDF. It says that it is annotated, but it's not. It will not have the annotations at this time. So the last piece on this area that I want to talk about, no, not in that area. We're going to go back in there. And so does anybody have any questions about the Canvas doc viewer? Yeah?
I would just say if you haven't used it and you put feedback on there, the students have to click on a thing that says view feedback. So they want to see what you put on there.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
Love it. It's great on the iPad app. I've just had an issue that, like, if I wrote some notes, it didn't save it all, and I had to, like, go back.
Doing it on the iPad, especially with the annotation and being able to draw on it using a stylus, is amazing, especially if you've got something as large as, what's your name? If you have, what's your name? If you have something like Crystal has the iPad Pro, and it is like the size of my torso. And so if you want to use that one, it's really easy to go ahead and add stuff. But the stylus is definitely going to be best when you're using an iPad.
And I've done that, but then when I update it or save the grade and go on to the next one, if I go back, some of those annotations didn't save if I do a line. If I write a couple of lines.
What browser are you using?
It's on the iPad, using your app.
Using the app, okay. Okay. Yeah, the teacher app, it's brand new. So it's brand new. So let us know honestly on those types of things because it's brand new, there's some things that with best intentions, it's just not working yet. So yeah, let us know on that one. Yeah, support ticket especially. All right, the next one. This is one that teachers have been begging for about 4 or 5 years. It is duplicating assignments and duplicating pages. Basically, all you need to be able to do is go into your course. We're going to go into the pages area. Make sure you're seeing all your pages. You're going to click on that cogwheel or the gearbox, whatever you want to call it. And there's now the ability to duplicate. If you duplicate something, it will say the exact same name, and then next to it's going to say copy. It is not associated with that other one. It is a copy. It has no connection whatsoever. Once you copy it, it is copied, and you can do whatever you would like to it. It doesn't affect the old one, and if you touch the old one, it doesn't affect the new one. Yeah?
Would that be a similar feature in quizzes?
Quizzes does not yet have...
The reason why I ask is sometimes I like to design like the post-test, and then that would be how I would create a pre-test by duplicating it.
Correct. So there are different ways that you can do that, and I would do that by utilizing your quiz banks, because all those quiz questions are already going to be in there, and so it is a function inside of that. And so I know exactly what you're talking about. It'd be easier just to click duplicate, but it's going to be pulling in those questions. No, so it's just going to be pages and assignments. And one thing to note, that assignments, if you are utilizing Google Cloud assignments, you're not going to be doing that. You're not going to be duplicating them because there's some back-end stuff with the LTI which make it so that there are some just weird things. So if it's going to be an LTI type thing, then I wouldn't duplicate it. If it's going to be native in Canvas, it's going to be a lot easier. Yeah?
Now, I can't remember who it was, but somebody who just showed us this earlier this morning showed exactly that you could have a Google Doc that was a reading assignment and that you could duplicate it and use it over and over again.
You can. It depends on how you're bringing it in. If you're doing it as a cloud document, it's different. So I was bringing it in as a document that they can go ahead and look at themselves. But if you're going to be doing it through the cloud document, there's just some weird things in there. But you can do it. There's just some workarounds that you might have to play around with. All right. So then the other one is going to be inside of the assignments. You have to be doing this inside of the tab assignment and underneath the tab that says pages. You're not going to be able to do that in all the other areas, but let's go ahead and click on this one. So this one is an assignment, same thing. You can duplicate that assignment, and there it is, position paper copy. It copies it, but it does not publish it. It's going to leave it in the unpublished, so you have to publish every piece as you're going through and you're copying them. Right. So if you look right here inside of the modules, and you're going to something that is an assignment, you cannot copy it or duplicate it from the modules. It has to be from the Pages tab, or it has to be from the Assignments tab. So just so you're like, hey, it's not working inside of the modules, it's because you can only do it in the other area. All right. So those are the duplication of assignments and pages. Does anybody have any questions about those? Yay, it's finally, right? All right. So course homepages. These have now changed. The default course homepage when you create a new page is going to be the modules instead of the recent activity view, which is possibly the worst view. Wait, I'm not supposed to say anything like that. It's not my favorite view. So I really like that this is where it starts. One thing to keep in mind for K through 6 especially is that modules can be a little bit overwhelming for them. For the higher grades, it's a little bit easier, but I would not use modules as my homepage for students that are needing a little bit more visual stimulation. All right. So course homepages are, the announcements are now available on any homepage that you select. So in the past, you've not been able to put that on every single page, but let's go ahead and show you what that looks like. I showed you guys in one of my other courses. Here's my American History course. So from a homepage, you have the ability to add recent announcements at the top of any of your pages. You can have up to 15 of them. I would never do more than 3 because it's just overwhelming. Does everybody know how to turn those on inside of the courses? Yeah? Okay. The way that you do that is you come down into where it says Settings down at the bottom. And when you click on Settings, there is a Course Details tab here at the top. When you click on that, down all the way at the bottom, there is a little button, and I know it's hidden in the weeds, but if you click on More Options, the first one there says Show Recent Announcements on the course homepage. Whatever course homepage you have set. You can have up to 15. Again, don't do more than, don't do 15. It takes over the whole page. If they want to see all the announcements, they can go to the announcements page. But just for the most recent, it will cycle them through. So the most recent is going to be at the top. All right. And so then when you go back into the home page, they're going to look like that, and they can open them up a little bit, and then they can click on it. And inside those announcements, they're still going to have the ability to click on it and get into the study guide if you've linked a study guide to it. So there's the Bill of Rights study guide. Does anybody have any questions about the homepage announcements? This is one thing that I really like having in my classes because there's always that first thing, and most of the time I put my daily announcements up there so that if there's a student that missed the day, they could go to that page and they would find it really quickly. Right. Assignments late and missing labels. This is new as of 2 weeks ago. Have you guys seen this yet? Okay. It's very handy, exactly. So now the students are going to be seeing missing in the status or late in their status. On a submission, there's the speed grader. They're also going to be seeing this in the speed grader where it says missing or late. It's just going to be a lot easier for them to see. Now they know that they're missing it or it's late. This is one of those things that a lot of times parents were like, my kid turned it in and it was after the due date, so now it's going to make sure that they know it's late. The red was really hard for a lot of people to recognize as late. They just thought that it meant something great. I don't know. Okay. So the last one that I want to go ahead, actually, let's see. Does anybody have any questions about that? The tabs? No, so that's going to be showing up in two places. It's going to be showing up for the students and their grades, and then for you, it's going to be showing up in your speed grader. So this is a speed grader. Let me show you what that looks like a little bit bigger. I know it's hard to see when there's screenshots. So click on grades, go into that speed grader, and about having it say that it's late. Oh. Okay, well, I can tell you that there is a possibility that that could happen in the near future, but, wow. She doesn't like, okay, that's sad. I'm really upset for her. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna move on. All right. Did that answer your question about where to find it? Nebo? I don't remember your name, sorry. Josie, did that answer your question? Perfect. Okay, so the last one that I want to show you guys is something that has been out for a little while, but it's something that I know a lot of teachers don't know about, and it's called Quizlog. How many of you guys know what the Quizlog is? Okay. I'm going to show you guys right now. It's a little bit different. So, here's a quiz that a student took. I'm now looking at this in the speed grader. There's a new button up here if it's turned on at your schools, and it's called the Quizlog. If you click inside of it, it's going to pull up a log. It's going to show how long your students took to take a quiz on each question. And then on top of that, there's something that is really, really helpful. You know that time when there's a student that's they found a loophole, right? They went ahead and opened up a new browser, and they started checking out all the answers in Safari, and you're in Chrome, so they're like, oh, I'm fine. This is what's going to happen if they leave any place from that quiz. Let's go ahead and look at the view log. Right here, it says stopped viewing the Canvas quiz taking page. It doesn't matter if they move to a different a place inside of Canvas. If they leave the quiz itself, it will show a red dot that says stopped viewing the Canvas quiz taking page. You only have to show the students this one time. You only have to say, go ahead and take this quiz, and then you show them what happens if they get out of the page. And basically what you can say to them is, if you do that, you're going to get a 0 on this assignment. So it doesn't lock it down, but it does give you the option to see what's going on. Yeah? If they open a new tab, it will do the same thing. It's if they leave this page. So I'm on this page. If I go to this other one, it's going to tell me how long I've been off of that tab. It's going to be tied especially to taking the quiz.
So he was off 20 seconds?
Yep, they were off for 5 seconds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the place to get that. Let's go ahead and show you guys. I knew that you guys would like this because it's just one of those times that when I know everything, they go, you know you don't. I'd be like, I know that you were on a different web page for 5 seconds. They're like, oh my God. I actually have. Anyway, all right, so the way that you're going to get to this is you're going to go into one of your quizzes. So there it is, the quiz, the Declaration of Independence quiz, and I'm looking at Bill Blend. So you know what, I'm actually going to go to a course. I'll start right back from the beginning so you guys can see it. All right. So I'm in my American history class. I'm going to go to my grades tab. And then I'm just going to go into the quiz. So this is the quiz, or this is the quiz. And then I'm going to click on the speed grader. And whatever student I'm looking at, there's going to be a button that says log right at the top. You will not see it unless it's turned on. So if you guys are like, it's not there, it's because it's not yet turned on for you guys. But this is one of the new features that's come out in Canvas recently. I think it's great. There are limitations, but hey, it's better than going ahead and spending tons of money getting Respondus, right? Anyway, does anybody have any questions about this? Yeah.
So, in Einstein,
Correct.
So then where will
The teachers will need to go into their own settings to turn it on.
for their course?
Yeah. So they'll go back into their courses, and let's go ahead and test that out. So you'll click settings, and then there's a feature options button right here at the top, and they will get to turn that one on. So in my instance, it's turned on no matter what. The teachers have the option to allow it or to not use it. I don't know why there'd be a problem with having it available for you if you would like it. It doesn't change the flow of how you're going to be working through Canvas, but it is pretty new, and so that's why it's a feature option. Does that answer that question for you, Robert?
I just had a question.
Yeah.
I turned my hand when you said to go to your.
So you click to settings, and then up at the top there's a few tabs: course details, sections, navigations, apps, and then feature options. And for mine, it's showing all the way down at the bottom. It is in beta, so there are some things and tweaks that could be happening to that in the future. So those are all of the new, not all of the new things, those are some of the new things that have come out this summer. There's a whole bunch of other things that come out every 3 weeks. So do you have a question? I can show you if you'd like. Yeah. So inside of each course, if you go to People, there's now something called a course context card. And what this is if you click on the student's name, it's going to pull up this information on the far right, on the right-hand side. This is going to show you guys how the student's doing in that class, the last 10 graded items, and then how well they're doing in that class. Just a quick view of their participation and page views in relationship to the other students in the class. So if she has a high participation, that doesn't mean that she's looking at it a ton. That just means compared to her other peers, she's looking at it a lot. All right. The other piece that's really nice about this one is that you can go ahead and send her a quick message by clicking on that button. You can get into the analytics about this student by clicking on analytics. And then it's going to be able to show you the activity by date, the communications, submissions, and grades. So basically, the context card is a place where you can now see a lot more of the same functions you could before, but just with a quick glance. All right. So again, this is going to be one of those feature options that you'll, I think, do you guys have that turned on at all of your districts? Do you guys? It's on or off. So same thing, you guys need to go into your settings and then turn that one on if you would like to see the course context cards. Some teachers don't like it, some do. All right. Yes? Yeah. It's going to be a log for each student, and then you're going to have to go to the next student and go into the log from there. So right now there is not a log for all students inside the class. It doesn't flag it. No, it doesn't. That would be a great feature option. Again, that's going to be something that would be a really cool feature, but as of right now, it's beta, so it's pretty new. Give us more ideas. All right. I saw a hand over there earlier. I think it was Michelle. Did you have a question? Okay. All right. So I think that's everything that I was planning on showing you guys. There's one last thing that I think that has come out pretty recently that I want to make sure you guys are aware of. And it's going to be up here in the cogwheel. If you guys look at my picture right here, it says Second Grade Rocks. If you click on this cogwheel, there's a thing that says Color Overlay over that picture. I don't want that color. This used to be the default. You couldn't get rid of the color. Now, if you go back up to the top, you click Color Overlay, it's still going to have a color associated with the course, but it's going to be in that little circle.
But everybody has to do that.
Correct. This is going to, and the reason for this is because every person gets to change their colors on their own pieces. And for students, I found this to be one of the things that allowed them to have a lot more buy-in. And this is really helpful, again, for those K through 6. If they're able to change their colors, they get really excited. Don't know why, but they do. They get really, really excited. So giving them that little piece of buy-in is really helpful. All right, yeah? We're going to be doing that later today. Yeah, so we're going to be going in and talking about how to create those blueprint courses. I just wanted to talk about what they were and not talk about how to do it quite yet. All right. Okay, if there's no other questions, then I will go ahead and turn this back over to Justin if he's not. He's out getting lunch. Awesome. So it's 11:45. I'm 1 minute over. All right. Thanks, guys, for listening to me. Hopefully you guys learned something new on that one.